Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Design Studio Perth Strategic Brand Messaging Workshop. I'm Tracy Fryer. I'm the founder of Design Studio Perth. This evening, I'm joined by Design Studio Perth's very own brand copywriting specialist, Chelsea.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm so excited to be here. For those of you who don't know, I'm one of Design Studio Perth's copywriters. I focus primarily on building an amazing brand identity for our clients and then taking that to create engaging website content. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Chelsea. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Design Studio Perth, we help our clients grow with distinction through captivating branding and design. We're an integrated branding and graphic design agency based in Perth, Western Australia. We help our clients take their brand from standard to strategic. Now, essentially, we understand how overwhelming branding can be. So what we really try to do is make branding a seamless experience. By intentionally understanding your vision and goals, we develop a powerful and distinctive brand that sets you apart and gives you authentically deserved confidence in the marketplace. So some of the intentions for the webinar this evening is to help you gain a better understanding of what brand messaging is, to show you how to leverage brand messaging in your business to generate more leads and the sales, which we all love, to show you how to use brand messaging to resonate with your ideal client, and last but not least, to show you how to create brand messaging cohesion across the various marketing platforms for web, print, and social media. Over to you, Chelsea.
Awesome. So we're going to start off by talking about what copywriting is. So it's essentially the art and science of crafting written content that persuades your audience. So it's the written content for your business, but the primary goal is to take your reader on a journey and then inspire them to take action. So that brings us to our call to action. So a lot of, the main mistakes that business owners make with the CTA is giving too many. So essentially it's telling your viewer, I want you to like and subscribe and comment and book a call. And the best thing you can actually do is focus on the one thing you want your ideal client to do when they come to you, and then communicate that one call to action. We've got some examples here to make it easier. Your CTA could be making a purchase, signing up for a newsletter, downloading your resource, or engaging in any other form of interaction with you. Yeah.
Chelsea, in your experience, what do you find is the best CTA to have? Is there one or two that you'd be happy to share with us?
So it really depends on what your business goal is. So whenever you create a website, for example, it's what is the primary reason that my website exists. So if it's that people would book a call with you, all your CTAs are going to be written with that in mind. So it might be, discover more with us. It's anything related to your primary goal. So likewise for social media, if your engaging post, if the purpose of your post is for people to buy a product from you, your call to action is going to be related to that. Yeah.
Thank you. So what we've found is that we have the villains. So these are also known as the problems that business owners face when it comes to brand messaging. So the first one we have is a subjective brand messaging zombie. So if this guy is present in your brand messaging, you've created your brand messaging around yourself and around your personal feelings instead of your ideal clients. So a big highlight for any brand is building your brand around your ideal client, because essentially that's the person that you want to bring into your business, and we'll touch more on that in a moment. The second one we see is the standard brand messaging mummies. So there isn't anything really unique or creative about your brand messaging. It's pretty stock standard. You haven't really thought about how you are different in the marketplace or what key messages are associated with your brand. The other one we see is the haphazard brand messaging vampire. So essentially, you're creating brand messaging on the fly. You'll have one message today, another message tomorrow, and perhaps 5 or 6 different ones next week. So there's no brand messaging foundation that's been created, and you haven't got clear on how it is that you're different. So the brand messaging vampire is a very haphazard beast, and will do that to your brand messaging. The next one we see is the generic brand messaging monster. So again, a bit like a standard brand, there isn't really anything different about you or your brand. you're another accountant, you're another graphic designer, you're another lawyer. The last one we see is the inconsistent brand messaging unicorn. So you'll have one message on your social media, you'll have another message on your print collateral, and then you'll have another 10 messages on your website. And sometimes those messages will contradict as well. And things get more colorful than this little guy's mane. And what happens slowly over time, so like anything in business, things compound, right? So if we're consistent with villains in our brand, our brand slowly decays over time and it doesn't give us the return on investment that we're hoping for. So at Design Studio Perth, we focus on the 3 branding pillars. So these are the main pillars that you need to have in your business in order to execute on any of your marketing effectively. As mentioned before, these pillars are created around your ideal client. So the first one we have is our brand messaging. The second one is your visual identity. So this is your logo, your brand style guide, your colors, and your fonts. And the third one is your brand media. So this is all your videos and your brand photos associated with your brand. The one Chelsea and I are going to be focusing on this evening is your brand messaging. Essentially, brand messaging is broken down into a few different components. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk through each one, and we've got a few examples that we're going to share as well. Chelsea, is there anything you wanted to add in this section?
So I'm glad you've highlighted the ideal client. I know we'll be talking about that a little later, but I think that is really foundational to everything else we're going to be talking about. We need to know who we're talking to so that we can build on the rest. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through all these elements.
Yeah, thanks for that. So a tagline, we come across so many businesses that don't have a clearly defined tagline. A lot of business owners seem to think that they don't need one, but here's why you do. So a tagline distills a brand's essence and value into a memorable phrase, fostering recognition, emotional connection, and competitive differentiation. So there's a few famous ones down the bottom here. So Nike's Just Do It, Apple Think Differently, and McDonald's I'm Loving It. I also wanted to highlight that some of the brands that we've shown you are very big, well-known brands, but always bear in mind that these brands started somewhere. So just because you're a small to medium enterprise, it doesn't mean that you don't need to have these things clearly defined in your business. Chelsea, is there anything you wanted to add around a tagline?
Yes, I think one of the important reasons that you need a tagline for your brand is that your customers aren't going to remember all your incredible ads. They don't have access to all your internal documents about who your brand is and what you stand for. But a tagline is just short enough for them to remember it, especially if you've crafted it strategically and it represents what your business stands for and who it is that you're talking to. So I think one of the important things is that it aids brand recall. So it's definitely an element that we can't overlook. Yeah.
Yeah, and something else you've highlighted there, Chelsea, is really creating it strategically. Do you mind to touch a bit more on that for us, please?
Sure. I think, you can't just string together a phrase and put it beneath your logo and hope that tagline comes about. And that's why, when we're creating a brand identity, the tagline isn't what we create first, because essentially your tagline is a distillation of your brand identity. It's this is who we are. This is what we stand for. How can we bring all of this goodness down into one phrase that people will remember? So it looks like just a few words, but it can actually take a lot of time to craft that and to make it memorable. Yeah.
That's like Design Studio Perth's one, Grow with Distinction. Oh my goodness, thought about that for so many hours.
And it's been worth it. It's worked.
It has. Yes, it works really, really well. I absolutely love it. So brand purpose. So the purpose of a brand is a guiding star for the brand's actions, decisions, strategies that ensure they are aligned with the brand's overarching mission and values. So the 2 examples we have are Starbucks. So their brand purpose is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. We've got Nike again, so to bring innovation, inspiration to every athlete in the world. And I love this next part. If you have a body, then you're an athlete.
Love it. We'll take it.
Yes. Values. So, brand values are the compass that shape the brand's culture and how it interacts with stakeholders, customers, employees, and partners. And brand values, from what I've learned on my business owner journey, have become super important for when it comes to recruiting teams. So, essentially, if you have your brand values clearly defined and not just the generic ones, like really, like Chelsea mentioned before about having a strategic tagline, really have values that are strategic to your business, it will really help candidates either align with those or they'll tap out, which is great because then they don't waste time going through your entire recruitment process. If the values align, then they're a good fit, they then move on. So it really gets rid of people who aren't really a good fit for our business. So the example we have here is BMW. So their core values are responsibility, openness, transparency, trust, and appreciation. Chelsea, anything you want to add around brand values?
I think I'd say you don't want to just select some values that you think your target audience wants to hear because they're going to hold you to it. So don't make one of your values time efficiency if it's not one of your strong points. I think
Yeah.
really look at what you stand for as a person if you're the business owner, and then what you believe your team can really deliver on as well, and then combine those two things to put forth some values that you can actually step up to consistently.
Yeah, that's a great point. Ideal client. Chelsea, I'm going to hand over to you if that's okay.
Awesome. So most business owners have an idea of their target audience. So it's the group of people that they are selling their product to or offering their service to. But what a lot of people fail to do, even though it's so important, is distill that target audience into one ideal client. So basically, this is a fictional person. It's an avatar, although you can base it on a real person. And this person represents the ideal person that you can target all your messaging toward. So the importance of this is when you are marketing to someone. So there's a saying, it says, people don't love to be sold to, but they love to buy. So if you can target all your communication to one person, keep that one person in mind, it makes everything a lot easier, a lot smoother, and a lot more effective. Because essentially you're thinking, how does this person like to be spoken to? What is it that I can tell them that will resonate with them and encourage them to, respond to my CTA or realize that I'm offering them the value that they need. It's basically, as we've touched on, the foundation on which all your other brand elements are built. So yeah, very important brand element we have here.
And to also get a lot of business owners who they seem to fear that if they define their ideal client, that they chopping off a whole part of the market. What's your thoughts around that?
Sure, I think it's an understandable fear, but thankfully it doesn't actually play out. If you think about Nike, they focus. So their ideal client, I can't state for sure because it'll be an internal document, but I presume it's someone in their 20s, an athletic person, someone who prioritizes their health, etc. So they're going to have that one avatar that they are targeting their messages towards. And yet, worldwide, young, old, people who, whether you're a couch potato or you love running, Nike is a beloved brand. And people of all walks of life, want that swoosh on all their items. So I think it's a good example of have your primary ideal client you're talking to, and the others will come because your messaging is going to be targeted. So yeah, it's definitely not a fear one needs to entertain.
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea. So a service overview. So a service overview is crucial for your brand messaging because it provides a clear and concise and comprehensive summary of what your business offers. Chelsea, did you want to touch a bit on this, please?
Sure. I think business owners know instinctively what it is that they do. And a lot of businesses offer many different types of things, whether it's a variety of products or a variety of services. And so creating this overview, it forces you to distill again everything that you do into an order of priority, essentially, because there's going to be something you do that brings in the most revenue. And that needs to be prioritized above all your other tasks. So instead of just having this broad range of this is all that we do, we just bring it down succinctly in this brand element.
So, our unique selling proposition. So, this highlights the distinct aspects of your brand that sets you apart from your competitors. So, the two examples we have is Death Wish Coffee. I know last time we ran this webinar, someone asked where can they buy this coffee. I assume on their website. So, their USP is the world's strongest coffee. So, its USP instantly tells you that this coffee packs a punch. Those looking for a smooth taste are probably better suited elsewhere. And then we've got Pipcorn on the other side. So delicious mini popcorn. And this appeals and focuses on, what makes their product, their popcorn, the smarter choice for health conscious or vegan customers. Chelsea, did you want to add anything around the USPs?
Yes, I think I'll just say for these two examples, they have a very clear, unique element for their brand. And you may be a business owner listening and saying, oh, well, it's easy for them because they can claim to be the best or claim to be the strongest or claim to be the healthiest. But how do I find out what makes me unique? And I think that's what a lot of our clients struggle with. They say, I'm a business consultant, but my competitors studied the same thing. They have the same experience. So that's why coming to a place like Design Studio Perth is so beneficial, because what we do is we take a deep dive into all the elements that you as a business owner can bring to the table. Because while your product or service may be a bit similar to your competitors, no one's walked your exact journey. No one knows exactly what you know. And it's about essentially crafting something unique for your business based on a combination of all these elements. So you don't have to worry about being the best or the strongest or the anything, as long as you can bring enough different elements that can be combined, you can have something unique.
And thanks for highlighting that, Chelsea. When you work with a professional who's, they're an expert in the space, it really just makes things, I think, for your business, it'll give you that better return as opposed to, I did this with my accountant, sitting late at night trying to figure everything out on our own and wasting time and hours and all that sort of thing. So thank you for mentioning that as well. So our brand personality, so this refers to the human characteristics, traits, and emotions associated with your brand that create a relatable and memorable persona. So I often say to clients, you have to think of your brand as a living thing. So a popular one, we're all very familiar with this one, is Coca-Cola, especially when Christmas is around the corner. Their ads are very well known for their beautifully branded, trucks. They remind people that holidays are coming. The personality is carefree and fun-loving, which encourage the audience to forget their fears and stresses and enjoy the moment by having a Coke and a smile. Chelsea, did you want to add anything around brand personality?
Sure. I think if you have a clearly defined brand personality, it makes realizing advertising opportunities, or rather the best advertising opportunities, so much easier. If you think about Coke, I remember being a little girl and they had an ad just before the movies, and it was this it dispensed these little chocolates. So you'd put a coin in and then you'd go into this whole world where there was chocolate and Coke and all that stuff. So the point is, by knowing their magical personality, they could recognize the right opportunities for their brand, like just before a kid's movie, So I think that's the thing. If you don't have your personality articulated, you won't quite know which events or which formats or which mediums are going to be right for you.
Yeah, Coke and chocolate sounds like a child's dream.
It is.
Brand tone of voice, Chelsea, this is your wheelhouse. I'm going to let you drive.
Sure. Well, we spoke earlier about your ideal client, how it is they want to be spoken to. But obviously you as a brand with your unique personality, you're going to talk a certain way as well. And so you want to create it in a way that's going to be true to how you speak, because as a brand, you're consistently creating content on behalf of your business, or you should be. And your consumer needs to be spoken to in a way that's going to resonate with them. So essentially, it's like, do we want to come across as very professional? Do we speak in a casual tone? Are we very enthusiastic? Do we punctuate everything with an exclamation mark? If our clients are time poor, do we keep our sentences short and sweet? So again, it's going to speak to your messaging and how you build out any written content from there.
Thank you. So the example I've included here is Frank Body. So they're an amazing coffee scrub beauty brand. If you haven't been on the website, highly recommend. So you'll see that right the way through from their website to their packaging, they've got real sort of quirky, wording. So guess what? You'll be naked in a minute. And even if you go on their website, it's hey babe, and so a completely different tone as if they were in a, professional services space. Elevator pitch, Chelsea, over to you.
Sure. So as you can see here, it says this is a concise and persuasive summary that communicates the essence of your brand and inspires action from your ideal client. So when we're building out a brand identity for a client, we're going to do the elevator pitch right at the end and take all the elements that we've discussed and developed and built out and put it into an elevator pitch. As in, you literally, if you were riding in an elevator up to the top floor and there was someone you wanted to sell to, your ideal client was with you, you'd be able to communicate who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, and most importantly, how you can offer this person value. And you can do it in a way that speaks to them because your tone is correct, your personality is on point, and this person just at the end of it wants to do business with you because you're speaking their language and you're offering them the solution to their problem. So yeah, very important.
And Chelsea, what would you say to a business owner who thinks that, my business is too small, I don't need any of this? What's your thoughts around that?
Well, if you're a business owner and entrepreneur, hopefully one of your goals is to grow. So it's never too early to put the necessary things in place so that you can grow. And, we do see some rebrands, clients who come and want to do branding down the line, but it's best to do it up front. I think people sometimes incorrectly view creating a brand identity as something that can wait, but brand identity has to do with reaching your ideal client. So it's one of those foundational business elements along with, finances and all the other things that are essential right at the start. So I'd advise that person to rethink waiting on building out their brand identity and to just make sure they get it done, because there's no one who's ever developed a solid brand identity in the beginning and regretted it.
Yeah, at least start in somewhere. Because again, we come across a lot of business owners, they might be 20 years in, but they haven't given this stuff any thought. And by then they've got 3 different businesses. There's no visual identity or brand messaging framework in place. And whilst it's possible, the task becomes a lot more overwhelming as opposed to if you had started like right in the beginning.
Definitely.
So just a brief example, Uber. So as you can see, this is one of their first ads. I think that's a BlackBerry up in the top left-hand corner there. It's very dated. Again, very sort of standard generic messaging. They were known as Uber Cab before. They've obviously since modernized, got very clear, you can go anywhere with Uber, which is a whole lot more than on-demand cab services via iPhone and SMS. So just a great example of how a brand can evolve.
Yeah.
So going back to our brand pillars, so this pretty much illustrates that we essentially need these 3 pillars in place to execute effectively on the marketing tasks below. If you're going to spend, something to contemplate, if you're going to spend $20,000 on an ad campaign, but you have no idea what your USP is or who your ideal client is, the likelihood of you getting a return on that 20 grand is going to be very, very slim. So highly encourage you to really look at these 3 pillars within your business, within your brand, to make sure that they are created around that ideal client. So when it comes to your marketing efforts, even your website, for example, find a lot of agencies or clients tend to go straight to their website. But if you haven't got your visual identity clearly defined, or you don't even know what colors are associated with your brand, your website is not going to essentially align with that ideal client. So what we have a podcast episode with Chelsea and Sean. So Sean is our other our social media copywriter. So these 2 ladies, and I'm not just saying this because they're part of my team, they are incredible at what they do. I'd highly recommend that you have a listen to that episode. What we'll do now, thank you so much, Chelsea. We'll go round to a question round. So if you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat box or the comments, on YouTube down below. So,
Awesome.
Rudy, Chelsea, what are your thoughts on people trying to use AI to create their own brand identity?
Thanks, Rudy. That's a great question. So I think the way I view it is that AI is a tool. So the quality of its output is only as good as the quality of its input. So essentially, you already have to know as a business owner who it is you're talking to and why you are unique if you want if you wanted to produce anything meaningful for you. And I think the people who want to take a shortcut and use AI to do everything forget that, just like we've discussed, all these brand elements, they need to be developed. And I think a lot of business owners have in their mind what it is that they want to do. They know what their brand is instinctively, but they can't articulate it. And that's what you need to be able to do to allow ChatGPT to do anything effective for you. So I'm not worried. It's an amazing tool. It's great for research, but when it comes to these brand elements, what we do is people come to us and we guide them through strategic questions that facilitate the right conversations that we can then take that information and translate it into those brand elements. So it's not advised to use AI, essentially. It has its place, but not in creating brand identity. Yeah.
Thanks, Rudy. Chelsea, I have a question. Why
Sure.
would you say creating your brand messaging framework is important in terms of your general, your capability statement, your general marketing collateral?
I would say it's important because it should be the first document created,
Mm,
and everything else can use it as a foundation. Because your capabilities, where you're talking about your differentiators, etc. If you have your brand identity framework, that's an internal document you can always come back to and always build from. And
mm,
if perhaps you're just a solopreneur now, or you only have a small team, but as your team grows, instead of having to sit down with your team and help them get the vision, there's a document you can hand over, and they can know very quickly, very succinctly, who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, how they can sell the business, and they can just run from there. So yeah, it's the
yeah.
first step of the process.
Thanks, Chelsea. I don't think we have any more questions. Chelsea, I'd love to know, what would your advice be to a business owner who potentially is thinking that they might have two avatars? Is that possible?
Yes, definitely. Especially for the bigger businesses that have been in the game for a while and they've branched out into sub brands. A business, you can technically have as many avatars as you need, dependent on as many products as you sell or services that you sell. So I
Mm,
think the bigger businesses will just have a bigger brand identity toolkit built for each of those people. So yeah, it's definitely wiser to have them separated than to try and make up one person that's gonna
yeah.
everything, because that's not gonna work. So yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
they would essentially have two different avatars, and then they would have a marketing strategy sort of targeted at both of those.
Yes. So your brand's purpose, your vision, mission, your values, those that would all be the same. And then you'd
Mm,
branch off from the creation of your ideal client into what are the key messages for these people? What are their unique pain points? And you'd have to build them out separately from there. Yeah.
mm. And Chelsea, for those of us who are embracing social media and trying to do reels and videos, what advice would you have for people there in terms of their brand messaging?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'd say is don't just go on a platform because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
Because every platform needs to be learnt. It has its
Mhm.
unique set of algorithms, not just one, and a unique way that you need to go about it. And the way you succeed on any one platform is by learning the platform's goal. So, for example, what is Instagram's goal as a business? Because
Yeah.
as soon as you know what it is, you can then create a strategy that helps you succeed on that platform. So
Mm,
that would be the first thing. Only go on a platform if you're willing to do the work to understand it and to build out a strategy specific to it. So that would be the first thing. And then the second thing would be stay true to your brand identity on each platform, but you can tweak it slightly to align with the
yeah.
platform. So what am I
Mm,
saying? We obviously, you know, if you a business owner and you have a very professional tone, you can appear on Instagram professionally, but you also need to perhaps add in the emojis or something
Yeah.
relative to that platform to speak appropriately on that platform. So stay
Yeah.
true to your identity, but be mindful of the platform you're on and what it requires of you. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and something else that I often say to clients is also think about where your ideal client is. So, is your ideal client on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram, or are they on TikTok? If they're a professional business owner, they're probably not on TikTok, might be, but predominantly they would be on LinkedIn more so.
Definitely. Yeah, it's good to
Yeah.
consider because then you can align your resources to the correct platform and not waste time playing around on TikTok if that's not where they are.
Yeah. Chelsea, any final words of brand messaging wisdom before we jump off?
Sure. I think if you haven't done your brand identity yet, it's not too late. Do go to the professionals. I know with us, people can get in touch with you, Tracy, chat
Yeah,
directly with you, no strings attached.
of
I think
course.
if you're on this webinar, it's because you want to educate yourself. It's because you want to grow with distinction. You want your brand to reach its goals. And so yes, I think armed with everything we've all learned and discussed today, just make that call and yeah, make it a priority for 2024. I think this is your sign to not put it off any longer.
Definitely. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everyone who has stayed on this long, and thank you for joining us. There will be an email coming out tomorrow with our ideal client compass, which really helps you define who that ideal client is. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chelsea.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy.